I'm just honored to be here at Salt Lake Community College and to see your fresh faces, and hopefully we can have some interactive fun today, and you can learn from this, and you can hopefully be inspired by some of the things that I will talk to you today about. So I'm thrilled. I was asked to talk about my career, but really I have several careers, as you can see, and every one of them has kind of led and dovetailed into the next. So I just have thought back quite a bit, thinking about my very first paid job, and this would have been in the early 70s. And I was asked to interview people for summer jobs for then Employment Security, which was the state office that helped people find jobs. Today it's called the Labor Commission and some other things along the way. But I started interviewing people for jobs, and I just thought today, I was asked to interview someone this morning at breakfast time who asked me to help her in her career and to interview her and help her find a position that she would be pleased with. So I thought, it's come full circle, and that's the way things work. So I really have had some interesting and fun experiences in the careers that I've had, and I thought I'd share with you a few of them. One of my first jobs was I really loved medicine. I thought I was going to go into medicine somewhere. I just loved, I loved helping people, and I just was fascinated by it. I took genetics when I was a sophomore in high school, and I just really loved that field. So when I got an opportunity to work for a plastic surgeon, and I thought, maybe I'd be at the front desk or something, but he actually had me go in with him the first day while he took out a nevus out of this man's face, and I passed out. So I thought, probably I should choose another career, right? And which was good, but I did work there for a little while, but it turned out to be something that wasn't me. Even though I'm still interested, I like the movies, I like the shows on TV, but it is different when you're actually doing it. So sometimes you just have to kind of explore things and find out what works for you and what doesn't. But today we're going to do some fun interactive exercises because I just really enjoyed my work as a researcher. So in 1980, my husband was a professor at Utah State. We lived up there for a while, and then we moved down here in 1980 to set up business for Dan Jones and Associates. And we did quantitative numbers, polling that you hear a lot about today. And I started out in the quantitative business. I'd actually been in the business a little bit before we started our business. And I said, let's just start our own company, because he was going to be a consultant when he moved down. And I said, let's start our own company. So we did, and it grew and grew. And it was a wonderful business. And then one day, after about 2 years into the business, we were called and asked by one of the larger advertising agencies in town if we would do focus groups on turkeys. It was for Norvest. And I said, I was like, I've never done a focus group. I had heard about them. It was a fairly new time for focus groups, actually, at that time. It wasn't a really established business yet. And so I said, I think I can do it. So I did it. I took the short straw, and I actually conducted some focus groups. As I think back, it's like I did them entirely wrong. It was a way too large of a group and so forth. But you start things, and you have to be willing to take a risk and try new things. And it worked out. It helped them. I think it guided them. But I started studying that piece of the business, the qualitative part of it, because I love qualitative research. Qualitative research is a little different than quantitative, because quantitative, the polling helps you understand how many this or that. So if you see numbers like when you see it right now, the presidential campaign, where you see all these polling numbers, there's a real science to it, by the way. There's a real art to it, by the way. But there's also the qualitative side. And the qualitative side helps you understand the why and the how. Whereas the numbers, the surveys will tell you how many. The qualitative helps you understand why is that. So when you look deep into, who supports you, who likes your product, who doesn't, you want to find out who are they? Are they younger? Are they older? So you have all of these crosstabs and so forth. So oftentimes what would happen is they would do surveys, and then I would go in, do the qualitative research to find out why is it that way? How do we reach them? How is the message received? How is it not received? Sometimes they would do qualitative first and then do polling after, because in the qualitative focus groups or one-on-one interviews, some of the questions will emerge that you want to test on a quantitative basis later. So it's a fascinating business. It's one that's always been out there, but it seems to be morphing as time goes on and changing as time goes on. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit of some of my experiences with that in just a second. I think you'll find it entertaining. But I wanted to go on to my next big career, if you want to call it that, and was in politics. And right now in my Women's Leadership Institute, I spend part of my time training women to run for office. And so we'll have our next political development series cohort start in a couple of weeks. And so we've trained more than 150 women at this point to run for political office, and they're running and they're winning. And I've always felt like it would be helpful to have more gender diversity in politics as well as in business. And so not to exclude men, because we certainly include men in our political development series and in other areas with the Women's Leadership Institute. Men are important allies and advocates of women. And so the Women's Leadership Institute is housed in the Salt Lake Chamber. Half of my board is men. And so we really make a big point of working with men and women to achieve at least gender diversity. We believe in all kinds of diversity. We think it makes for better ROI and so forth. But I have to say that politics was probably the best leadership training that I could receive. I think that's true of any politician, whether you're running for the legislature, or you're running for city council, you name it. When you are serving in political office, you have to know budgets. You have to be able to convince people, be able to speak in front of people, write, problem solve, have critical thinking skills. All of those things are sharpened in political office. And when you're running, whether you win or lose, it's sharpened. It helps you become better at all of those skills. And so I certainly found that to be true in my political career. And I'm still kind of involved in it because of the training that we're doing. And I built a lot of great relationships with Republicans and Democrats in the House and in the Senate here. I still have good friends on both sides of the aisle. I think that's super important, especially today. You just don't see, the bipartisanship that so many of us are looking for. And then, of course, the Women's Leadership Institute is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. I really thought, when I was asked to run the Women's Leadership Institute 4.5 years ago, I really thought I was retiring. I had been in business for so many years and in politics, and I was turning 65 then, so I kind of thought, most people retire at that age. But it was an opportunity for me to take my business background, my political background, because I was asked to run the Women's Leadership Institute by some of our key business leaders in our state. And they had just read an article in the New York Post in 2014, October. And what the title of this article in the Post said this: 5 places that women should not spend their travel dollars. That was the title of the article. And the places were Turkey, Indonesia, El Salvador, Saudi Arabia, and Utah. Yeah. And one of the reasons is that we have such a low number of women in politics here. We have a very low number of women in senior level. We have a very low number of women on boards. And so all of those things made our scores go way down. So some of our business leaders were saying that it's causing alarm, if you will, or a pause for people that are attracted here for business. So it's hurting our economy. And so they wanted to change it. And so that's when I thought, you know what, I want to do something to help as well. So the Women's Leadership Institute has been amazing, and it's been successful because, number one, we have business leaders who are ready and willing and wanting to change this. And so we have come up with the Elevate Her Challenge, which Salt Lake Community College has taken. All of our universities and colleges in our state have, as well as 250 plus organizations throughout our state. And it's a commitment to elevate women in senior level, to get more women on boards, to encourage women to run for political office, to look at mentoring and sponsorship programs, to look at the wage gap, and all of these things together that we know collectively, if people make an intended effort to address, that their ROI will be enhanced, and their ability to attract and retain talent will be enhanced, and also the employee morale is increased. So all good things happen when we have more diversity. I believe in all diversity. Diversity of thought, diversity of background. Those things really do comprise good things when they happen. So those are kind of my major careers. Who knows what my next one will be? I'm just like, I'm not going to say this is my last one, because you really do never know. And I think in today's environment, it's exciting to be a little flexible, to be quick on your feet, and to be willing to accept change. And that's really imperative in today's environment. Our economy is requiring that, where you're not afraid to try new things. In fact, the big thing in higher education now is transferable skills, you know? And I hear this from companies all the time. You know what they tell me when they're wanting? I've done a lot of research on this, actually. And there are 4 things that companies are looking for today. And yes, they need engineers, and yes, they need other, qualifications. But what they're telling me are those things I just told you that happen to me in politics. The ability to speak in public, the ability to write, the ability to think creatively, and to have critical thinking skills. Those are the things that companies are looking for. And if you have those, they're as good in one company as they are in another. They're transferable. So extremely imperative what you're doing in Whitney's class. It's really important, the things you're learning. Are you ready to hear about some of my experiences in qualitative research? I think you'll find them kind of interesting. Over the years, I'll bet I did, my goodness, thousands of focus groups. Okay, so I did one-on-one interviews too, and my work took me not just all throughout the United States, but in other countries. And it was a great career, and it helps you understand a little tiny bit about a broad swath of topics. I had so many great experiences from this, but I thought of a few that you might be interested in today. So first of all, let me explain what focus groups are. They are a part of qualitative research. Focus groups, you've heard about them. You'll hear about them a lot in the presidential campaign. And I have to say that I'm a Democrat, so full disclosure, I'm a Democrat. But I did almost all of the Republican, Senator Hatch's work. I did all of the governor's work from way back. And I felt like I did it in a professional manner. They seemed to like it, and I could keep my personal views about it. But when I did run as a Democrat, it was interesting. But I still kept friends, remained friends with everybody. But very interesting to really get to know what people think about different campaigns and different messages. So I'm going to give you a couple of them. How many have heard of tracks? Okay, I'm sure you have. Light rail here in our state, right? When tracks was being conceived, they were trying to figure out what to name it. And they had interesting names. This goes back a few years, you can tell from my memory, but there were options like ACE, Area Commuter Express, Beeline. Okay, Tracks was just one of the options. Okay, so there was maybe 5 or 6 names they were thinking of, and so they conducted focus groups to find out, what meaning does it have? And all I remember is that Beeline was too provincial. They felt like it's too Beehive, too Utah, we want it to be a little bit more international sounding. The thing that they liked about tracks is that the graphic designers, who usually in a focus group setting, it usually is not like this, by the way. It's usually in a room where you have a one-way glass. People are observing. You have the people from the ad agency, the creative people there that are listening in and kind of get ideas. But anyway, they love the idea that tracks, the X seemed to look like railroad ties, look like rails. And so they kind of liked that idea. So one of the reasons they went with tracks is for that reason. It was just more graphic, had more potential graphically. Does that make sense? So that was just one that I remembered that I thought would be interesting for today. The other one was that I thought of was ice cream. I remember doing some focus groups on ice cream, and of course Utah is one of the ice cream capitals. Did you know that? And so, so they usually when you do focus groups, you want the groups to be as homogeneous as you can afford. So you kind of want, like, you don't want all buyers. I mean, you don't want buyers and users and non-users. Usually you want to separate like users and non-users. And usually I would separate men and women. There's some really interesting dynamics that go on when you have men and women together that made it sometimes problematic. Even things that you wouldn't guess have some gender specific things. So we usually separated men and women's groups. For this one project, they wanted to find out what was it that women, mothers typically, what are they looking for when they're buying ice cream, brands of ice cream? And so they brought in women mothers who buy these big tubs of ice cream. Okay, have you ever bought those? You know, the big tubs. And so so that's what the group was comprised of. And they wanted to find out what motivates mothers to buy a certain brand, you know, what kind of message do they look for? So yeah, it was kind of a standard focus group. I use a lot of projectives in focus groups. Those are questions that might seem a little odd, like sometimes I'll have them use Play-Doh and have them build things. I have them draw pictures. I have them maybe connect things looking at animals or whatever it is. So there are different tools that you can use in focus groups to really uncover the real answer, because usually the stated answer is not always the real answer. So in this ice cream project, I started asking them a series of questions, and I'll just tell you the end because it's too long to explain. But what I found out is, yes, these mothers buy big tubs of ice cream for their kids. But guess what else they buy? They buy Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs, the expensive stuff, and they hide it under the other frozen stuff. And so, I mean, what this client thought they were getting, very different than what the reality was. And was the aha moment for me. These women started talking, well, yes, I buy that, but don't tell anybody. I also buy this and I put it under the other frozen goods in my freezer. When the kids go to bed, I break this out and have this wonderful experience for half an hour where I'm validating myself. And I'm thinking, my God, I do that too. I've done that, you know? And so how valuable would that experience be, what they heard in a focus group like that? If you're selling ice cream, wouldn't that be a great message? Kind of a subtle message. Yeah, you can buy this stuff. Sure, go ahead and do that. But you can also buy this stuff, right? So, I mean, that's just one example of finding out the real answer. The real answer. And that's what I love about qualitative research, is it helps you understand. If you do it right and use the right tools, you can find out the real answer to things. I could give many examples of that. Another one was, I remember this one really well. There was a company that was a nutritional supplement company that was called Pain Free. I don't know if you've ever seen that. So it was a chondroitin glucosamine product. I did a lot of work in that industry. And so they were having some trademark issues. So they had me go all over the country, and they were thinking of using the name Joint Free, right? So we were in California. I'll never forget this, but this one woman said, are you kidding? If you use Joint Free, it's going to be like a rubber chicken. I'm like, yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, joint for you. I mean, that's, so something like that can be found out it can help prevent huge mistakes when you do qualitative research like this. Huge mistakes. So not just guiding a project or, a message. It can help you prevent big blunders. And I saw that many, many times. And then the last one I'm going to give you is, I did a lot of work also in the ski industry. Of course, that makes sense here. But this was a particular project they asked me to do for Jackson Hole Ski Resort. I used to be a pretty big skier. Then I got less as I got older, and in the legislature is kind of prohibitive. But this was for Jackson Hole. Jackson Hole knew that they had kind of a niche market. I mean, they didn't have the advantage of having close access like they do here in Utah, where you can, and this is the biggest thing for Utah ski resorts, and you'll see it. You can fly in. I remember doing some for Utah's resorts. A guy from New York, I was in New York actually, right before 9/11. And he said, I can fly in, get up early in the morning, fly to Utah, and be up on the slopes by noon. Huge bonus here in our state, okay? And you'll see them, as you look at our marketing here, you're gonna see that they use access pretty liberally. That's one of the big things for skiers is when they go somewhere, you can get there quickly. That's not true in Colorado, by the way. There's a lot of driving that you have to do from their airport to DIA to their ski resort. So it's one of the things they really tout here, besides having great snow. But anyway, so Jackson Hole was trying to figure out, what is our niche? What is our brand personality? What are we known for? How can we kind of get into the market? So they asked me to conduct some one-on-one interviews and focus groups of young men, because they kind of felt like, the Jackson Hole, we kind of think it's we know it's a difficult mountain. Have you ever been up there to ski, or even in the summer? Well, yeah, I can't even imagine it. But I would do these interviews of young skiers, men, that was their target, and they kept talking about Corbett's Cool Air. If you've ever been up on the gondola, at the Teton Village, you'll go over Corbett's Cool Air. I mean, it is a sheer cliff. Even in the winter, it doesn't have snow on it because it's so steep. Well, they will stand on the end of that and jump off there, which I don't understand, but definitely it's a difficult mountain. And so they wanted to know something more than that. It has to be more than being a difficult mountain. So I started hearing these stories from these young men about kind of this yearning for the West. So you're looking for kind of common themes when you're doing these interviews. What are there's something deeper. And it was this yearning for the West, something that would be ours, that would be different, and that we're not all of these, older people would be, but it's ours, it's ours. And I kept kind of hearing that theme. So I went through on a lot of things. And then there was the clincher, and I'll never forget me reporting back to my client, which was an ad agency here, telling him about this one interview I had. It was a young man in Chicago. And he said, all of my roommates have pictures of beautiful women on their wall. And he said, I don't. I said, I have skiers on my wall. And it just clicked. And so I'm going to show you their ad campaign. Now, this is a few years old, but Whitney's going to help me because I've kept it. I'm glad I did. But they kind of took this mixture of this yearning for the West, this kind of young vibe, and this is what and this won a national awards, by the way. So this is one of them, college degree, good job, big house, we all make mistakes. Okay? Now, don't get any ideas here. You want to finish your degree. And then this one. They love this one, and this got good ratings. Not all fantasies deal with sex. Okay? You can see how they took that research and the information that I was able to garner from these young men and put it in sepia tones that's got that allure of the West, tough mountain. I mean, taking risks. These young guys, it really hit the mark. And then this one, I don't have a big one of this minute. This came right out of the publication, but it's not nearly as scary as saying I do. So you can kind of see this rebel, it's our mountain. It's, all of the pieces of information that we were able to obtain in the qualitative research they put to and illustrated it and made the message what it was. A winning campaign. A winning campaign. And this is what qualitative research can do and still does. You'll see it whenever I see ads. I become pretty good at going, oh, I wonder, this was the message that came out of their qualitative, so I've just been able to catch that. So focus groups typically are 8 to 10 people. 8 is the perfect number in a focus group, by the way. You have a professional facility typically, so you have, there are some in our state where you'll have a one-way glass where the clients, sometimes it's the client, sometimes it's the CEO, sometimes it's their ad agency with their creative people that will come and observe through the one-way. And it's not just one group, you'll do a series of groups, depends on how much you can afford. And you have a professional moderator, facilitator, that can take information and make some sense of it. Find out what those really golden nuggets, pieces of information, like we found out in the Jackson Hole story. And then they can use that and put together a campaign. It's interactive, very interactive. It's usually 2 hours long. So the one we're going to show today is not the normal one, but I think it gives you an idea. And then they do pay the respondents typically to attend and participate. The going rate when I was doing a lot of them was $75 for 2 hours. That's gone up to over 100 nowadays. But it's something where you invite people. The facility will do the inviting. If I were the moderator or the client, I would say I want young men who are skiers, who are pretty good skiers. I mean, you can see that that's, you want to let them know who that is, and then they will do the invitations and the recruiting. So there's a science to this, trust me, but it's amazing to me how close it is and how much you can understand from it when you compare it to the qualitative and the quantitative. So if you do a survey and you find out that 50 or 60% believe a certain thing or like a certain thing, you'll do focus groups, and after you do maybe 50, 60 people, you kind of see the same numbers approximately. It's kind of interesting. So today I thought it would be useful to do a little focus group for you. Now those women, we're going to have just women today, and here's why. Not that we don't like men. Here's why. I'm on the University of Utah School of Dentistry board, and I had a meeting up there with their dean just recently, and he said to me, Pat, I'm really discouraged. He says, we've been doing really well in recruiting some things, but we are having some difficulty recruiting women. So we're going to do a little focus group on this, and that's the reason we're going to have just women today. So all of you women who said you'd be willing to do this, you don't have to know anything, it's just your own opinion, we invite you up here, okay? Any female in here who is asked to come do this, okay. I'm sorry you won't get paid, that's my only regret. Usually you would. So sit around this table. Okay, so can you just put your name on this? Just write your name on here so I'll know who you are. Okay, and thank you in advance for helping us. So typically, this would be a little bit bigger table. We would, of course, not just put this together. We would have recruited these people, but I'm just going to go through just a couple of things that we might normally do in a focus group. Are we okay time-wise?
Yeah, we're at 35. 1:35.
Okay, and so we have about 20 minutes, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
20? Okay.
We can do
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is, I can see your names. Normally would introduce everybody, which we won't. We'll just, move on. I would like you to draw a picture. Now, please don't worry about your ability to draw. You might not all be great artists. In fact, if there's one in here that you'd be unusual. Most people are not great artists, so don't worry about your ability to do art. But what I'd like you to do is, when you think of a dentist, draw a picture of what comes to mind when you think of a dentist. Okay, so just draw whatever comes in. You can draw, use stick figures or whatever. And then make sure you label everything. Give us as much detail. When you think of a dentist, what is it that you're thinking of? Draw whatever is in your mind. There's no right or wrong answers. And use expressions. You can write down what your thoughts are, what goes through your mind, what word you connect with a dentist. What is that picture in your mind when you think of a dentist? The rest of you can do this on your own if you want. Be sure and label things. Write down kind of what your thoughts are. What words come to your mind when you think of a dentist? This is just one of the projective techniques. It's one of my favorite ones. For instance, I remember, and I know they wouldn't mind me telling you this because he's said this in public a lot, but I remember, you guys keep doing your work. I remember doing some focus groups for Zion's Bank 20 years ago. And I had them do this exercise. If Zion's Bank were a person, what would this person look like or be like? And guess what they wrote? Say, old white man with a white shirt, bald. Okay, they took that. In fact, their president, CEO, Scott Anderson, was behind the glass. He took that information, completely changed it. He started the women's leadership, or the women's financial group. They are now the leader in our state on inclusion and diversity. So that's how this can be completely turned around. But I love this exercise. We would not have known that had we not done an exercise like that.
We did that with Utah State as well.
Good,
We
good.
asked them to draw a typical Utah State student.
And
It came out much more granola, nature-y, kind of camping than we thought it would. Very different than our perception.
Yeah.
Like dreadlocks, like flannel.
flannel,
Yeah.
tree hugger.
Not the short.
Yeah.
Just kind of
Yeah.
granola.
And frankly, a lot of companies that do this embrace that because it's hard to change your perception like that. It's not something you can do overnight. It's like, what are the benefits of that? And then you embrace it, and then you can build on it. Sometimes it's not a good thing. Sometimes your impression or your brand is not what you want, so you really do have to change. It costs a lot of money to do that. But anyway, how are you guys doing? Put your name at the top. We won't pay you royalties. Okay. And then at some point, I'm going to ask you to add something else because I really am going to use this, if you don't mind. Okay, this is where, by the time we got to this exercise, I would have had them introduce themselves. I would have had just some general, that wasn't even related to our topic. We would have had probably 15 minutes into something, but before I did this exercise. But anyway, we jumped right in here. So, Gazella?
Yeah.
Would you mind just showing us your picture and telling us about it?
Are you sure?
You want to stand up
Yeah,
so
sure.
everybody can see?
Well, I don't know if you can see. Usually my experience with dentists, they're very happy and very friendly. So I can make that smile face because I put this on. But usually for me, they're happy and very friendly. And approx, I always have dentists like average age, like 38, 40. And what I did more, just try to guess material instrument they use.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay. We'll come back to you. Thank you. Good job. Berkeley.
Okay. So I mostly just drew the dentist, and then the way I explained it is I said the dentists I've had in the past are usually very focused on like cleaning. They're very neutral. They don't show a lot of like expressions just because of the mask, and it's kind of covering how they're really feeling. It's really fast paced. They're kind of just like in to clean your teeth, and then they're out, and you don't really see them again. There's not a lot of talking because you can't really talk to them when they're
I know.
working on your mouth.
That's awkward,
They're
isn't
like,
it?
they try to, but yeah, and that's mostly it.
Okay, so what does it say on there?
Oh, this is just, I said focused, cleaning, quiet, neutral, fast-paced, and then I labeled like the scrubs, the tools they use, the like glasses they wear, and then the mask.
Okay. Thank you. Good job. Faiza? Did I say that right?
Yeah, Pfizer.
Faiza.
So first thing that came in my mind was the dentist. And then, of course, when you ever go there, you get teeth done and get injections. And making money and growing business.
Okay, so kind of more the economic side of it. All right. Great job. Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. We'll talk in a minute. Thank you, Faiza. Donnie? Danny?
Miss Sandy.
And Danny.
This is my little dentist guy. I think of like the really obnoxious bright lights and the weird table chair, and they usually have nice teeth. I feel like they're pretty honest and proactive, and they always wear scrubs, so I labeled that. That's what I think about dentists.
Did you have any words that you want to add?
I put bright lights, nice teeth, honest, proactive, scrubs, weird table chair.
Weird table chair. All right. Thank you, Danny. Jenny? Oh, sorry. I can't see
I'm
your
Morgan.
name. Sorry. Morgan. Hi, Morgan.
Okay. So, you can't really see it. Ugly stick figure is what I said, that it's usually white, around 40 to 70 years old. Pretty intelligent, they're always super wealthy. Like they're pretty friendly with you. And then I also just like the little scrubs, and they have like those weird magnifying glasses things. And usually the dentist is male, and then they always have a female, either a hygienist or dental assistant is what they call them. So it's usually those gender norms.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Morgan. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Okay.
So I always remember always saying glasses.
Come stand over here so everyone
Okay.
can see you.
When I think of dentists, I always think of glasses, and I always remember their nose because that's the thing I get. And I always think of colorful scrubs, spending lots of money, and mint.
Ah. And mint. What? Tell me about mint.
You know, just like general toothpaste, cleaning, just the taste of mint,
Okay.
mouthwash.
Okay. See, this is what you'd normally do is have them, elaborate a little bit on their pictures, which we'll do in a minute. But typically, you want to find out what are they meaning, because sometimes we're not able to draw what we're meaning. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is having them tell you what there really is in their head. Can you see the value of that? Okay. Jennifer. Oh, someone's calling.
Okay. So this is my dentist. I have him wearing a mask, holding a needle, and holding a drill. I hate dentists, so I wrote scary. I wrote anxiety, pain, unsure, because I don't know what's going on. He's the dentist, so I'm just sitting there not sure what's going Stranger, sometimes they're new and I don't know who they are. Smart, scrubs, and then I wrote smell because, you know, when they're working on your teeth, sometimes there's always like that nasty smell.
Yeah.
That's bothersome, so.
So Jennifer, you said something interesting there. He's a dentist, so I don't know what's going on. Tell us what you meant by that.
I mean, like, you know, he can see what's going on in my mouth, and I don't know exactly what he's doing. I know he's fixing my teeth, but I don't have the education behind it to understand.
Would you want to know?
I think that would be good to know. I don't know if I'd want to sit there and like listen to like a whole spiel and what he's doing, if that makes sense. I just don't know exactly what's going on.
Can you see an opening here? If you were a dentist, you'd kind of want to explore that. Maybe there's some things that dentists could do to better keep people up on that they're doing to you,
Yeah, 'cause I
right?
think that attributes to my anxiety because I'm like, I don't know what's going on, you know?
We already found something out here that I think would be extremely helpful. That a lot of dentists don't do. That is, and honestly, I've found this in other things too. That if you go to a car dealership, done a lot of work for car dealerships. You know how you have the secret man behind that tells you the real price, right? Right, the mystery man, they call it. Just keep us informed. If I'm waiting for that, have a loop. Help me understand what's going on. What are you doing to me? Be transparent. We have 10 minutes. Okay, let's go on to you. Can you see that? We see it here, just with what Jennifer just said. Okay, one way.
Do one.
Do one. I'm sorry. Do one. Thank you.
This is a little dentist guy here, and I only met the dentist guy like once, and he's always with the mask on it, so I can't really see the expression on his face. But the way he talks is very nice and very patient. So, and he also is a white guy, and he's like around like 50 years old, and he's I read here he's not in shape. It's not a stereotype. It's just like actually it makes me feel better because if a muscle guy or something like that, it makes me feel nervous. So that's what I feel about the idea came up in my when I
Okay.
hear a dentist.
Thank you. What a great job you all did. So I have some quick questions because we're running out of time a little bit. Did any of you depict a female dentist?
Colorful scrubs.
What's that?
Colorful scrubs.
Colorful scrub, is that female? Okay, so you did depict a female dentist. Yeah? When you think of a dentist, you think of a woman.
Yeah, it's always the first person that greets me. Otherwise, I don't remember the dentist. I just remember their nose or their glasses.
Yeah, something about the guy's nose. Yeah? Is it a
Otherwise,
man?
we always meet women. Like, that's the only people I talk to is the women.
Okay, but the dentist itself, is that a woman or a man?
Oh, I only ever noticed the nose. But
Okay.
I think I've had both.
Okay, all right. So how many of you have settled on your career choice? Just raise your hand if you know what you're going to do. A couple of you, okay. Now, I'm going to ask you to use your stick faces. Blue means definitely, pink means definitely not. It's somewhere on that continuum. I use these stick faces a lot too. Would you consider dentistry as a profession? Blue means yes, I absolutely would consider it. Pink means no, I absolutely would not. Hold them really high. So we have two that definitely would. You would definitely consider, you would definitely consider. We can write this down for me because it would be helpful.
Yeah.
We have two blue. We have one, Jenny, one that might consider it. So 3 out of the 8. And then we have one purple and 3 pink ones. Tell me the reasons why you would not consider it. Let's start with Morgan.
Kind of grosses me out. I don't want to do anything like that. I don't want anything health related. It's not my thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go to someone who said they definitely would. Let's, Gazella, what about you? What would get you to actually go into dentistry?
Well, I used to live in Arizona and Utah, and I have great dentists, and they usually spend time talking with me, so I easily recognize and I remember them. They're so friendly talking with me. Probably I don't know because I am foreign and they go, oh, where are you from? I will start to talk more. So and also I have friends that are dentists too. So I think this is a great job. I think more than to make money, also they have that vocation to help people with these issues and I don't know in the mouth and teeth and this kind of stuff.
Why don't we have more female dentists? What's the reason? Berkeley, what do you think?
I'm not really sure. I think maybe it does have something to do with like the basic stereotype we think of. Because if you look at what we all drew, we first thought of men when we thought of dentists. I think we typically tend to associate like the hygienist with females more than we see them as actual dentists.
Mhm.
Based on like observing the pictures and kind of based on what I've seen personally when I've gone to the dentist.
Would you consider dentistry ever? What would make you consider it?
I don't know what would make me consider it. Maybe if one of my other career plans failed and I was having some sort of midlife crisis. But other than that, I'm pretty sure on what I want to do and what I'm passionate about.
If you knew that dentists, female dentists, which are rare, relatively rare, have more flexibility, make more money, can choose their hours, have fulfilling, they can help people, help little kids, they can help people that are maybe underprivileged, would that make a difference in your decision? What about you, Jennifer?
Not for me. I think just kind of like her, just I can't even think of the thought of being in someone's mouth. It's too gross for me. So.
What would be an advantage of having a female dentist? Anyone?
They have smaller hands.
They have smaller hands. Exactly, one of them. Right, it's true. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this focus group, and we've got to conclude now, this would have been an interesting, longer conversation. The School of Dentistry has gone from half of the class being female students, to a very small percentage. And they're trying to find out why. What can they do to get women into the field of dentistry? So you've just helped us. I'm going to take this information back to them. It is a stereotype. You think of a male. Most people think of men, and then the assistants, the dental hygienists, as women. There are a lot of stereotypes. How do we change that? How do we change that? So, if there was one piece of information that you would give to the dental school, what would you say to the dental school to get more women? Think about your friends, think about your sisters, your female neighbors, the girls in your area. What would get them? What piece of recommendation would you give to the School of Dentistry to recruit more women into dentistry? Any thoughts?
It's a respectable job.
What is that?
It's a respectable job.
Respectable job?
Uh-huh.
What do you mean by that?
So you can gain respect.
Okay, you think that females would gain respect if they went into dentistry? Okay, great, thank you. What else? Can you speak up really loud so they can hear?
Yeah. As a mom, I think you said children, catering it towards, maybe pediatric, that caught my attention.
Okay, so you can help, is it your children or other children that you would
Just
help?
children in general.
Okay,
Earning potential.
earning. You can make more money.
Mhm.
Okay, others?
So I have a friend actually there. She is going to the dentist school, and I find out there's a long time. She's only like 20 years old, but when she really get her like dentist to be a dentist, it takes around 7 years. So and she didn't plan. She doesn't plan to marry until she got the dentist. So I think it's too long for a woman.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
would
I would
delay
do it.
marriage?
Takes 4 hours.
I would not do 7 years.
Then I
Unless I
would
was being
go
a
with the-
real doctor. It's too long.
I would make a clear path because, like most women, we don't realize how long education is and what fields we do. So sometimes some people will just go for the 7 years anyway in something if they want to do dentistry. So I'd make a clear path on how many years it takes, exactly what you need for schooling, compare it to a hygienist and how many years, or compare it to something completely different. Because like lawyers, doctors, anything big like that, that takes a very long time as well. So I have to be very clear.
It sounds like length of time for this would be a barrier for several of you.
Yeah.
That would have to be clarified. You would want that cleared. Any thoughts from you?
Oh,
Any other thoughts?
I agree with what everyone said. I think what I've heard about dental school is it's a lot of input and it's pretty complex for the output that you get, and I don't know if I'd be happy in the field.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to clear up now. But I thought it was an interesting discussion. Thank you so much. Leave your papers here, and I'll collect those in just a minute. But what did you all learn from that? Real quickly. Did anyone learn anything from that? Yeah, go ahead, you and then you.
It's just showing their actual raw feelings about specific things. It's not something that you would think about usually, but when the questions are posed, it brings up deep thoughts of dentistry.
All right, great. So you can see it's a little deeper than you normally would get if you just asked a question. Yes.
Well, focus group item wasn't really something that I heard about before, but just to see it, kind of see it in play, kind of gives me an insight on it. Although, like, maybe one person's opinion, I mean, more people, if they have opinions, it's better than one person's opinion because you have more ideas and more insights. And I can see that why I need to see that. Like, that should think that happened in my school, that's what I think that happened in the school as well.
Yeah, okay, so you got exposed to a new occupation,
Yeah.
new industry.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Pat, for coming. We appreciate your time.